Well, good morning everyone. Thank you all very much for coming, and special thanks of course to Weston Zoyland Parish Council for helping us arrange this. It's very much appreciated. My name's Kenneth Bannerman. I'm the founder and head of the Airfields of Britain Conservation Trust, which is Britain's and apparently the world's first national charity of its kind. And we're very pleased to be here today to honour Weston Zoyland Airfield. Now, first things first, just in case there's any form of confusion, the airfield was always spelled with the RAF as two words, Weston Zoyland. Just in case you're wondering.
They don't like it.
The National Archives records in London, and it almost invariably is called two words, although of course the village is just one word. That's just how the RAF worked it out. Well, the story goes right back to the spring of 1925, when the Air Ministry arranged with local residents the use of Weston Fields, just to the east of the village, for use as an RAF summer camp. Now what they meant by that was that the military airfield was only used during the better months of each year for practice duties like air-to-air firing. There were one or two airfields around, especially England, that fell into the same category, that like Weston Zoyland in time not only became permanent airfields but also very famous ones. For example, North Coats in Lincolnshire, which in World War II became very famous for its anti-shipping strike wing. So Weston Zoyland was in the same category. The first aircraft that landed here, contrary to what some people think, actually landed in 1925 towards the end of June, when number 100 Squadron, which flew biplane bombers of the day, immediately transferred from Hendon, the famous London airfield, where, and it must have been quite a big change for them coming here, because they just recently performed in front of over 100,000 people. Therefore, coming to this part of Somerset, it must have been not unnaturally quite a big change for them. Anyhow, that's started the ball rolling, and from then until for many years afterwards, this place was used primarily for anti-aircraft cooperation duties. Aircraft towed target drogues behind them for use by training by anti-aircraft gunners, and this coincided with the establishment of a camp not far from here at Watchet, which ran for many years into the 1950s. Initially, the squadron that was based here was number 100 Squadron, but then by the start of the 1930s, Weston Zoyland became further associated with no less than the legendary Biggin Hill, and an anti-aircraft cooperation unit here, which eventually became known as number 1 Anti-Aircraft Cooperation Unit, was based here during the better months of each year, and Weston Zoyland kept fairly busy when it was open. Come World War II, the airfield then gained permanent status, and there was a further significant change in the summer of 1940, during when number 16 Squadron, which by this time flew Army cooperation aircraft, the airfield then became self-accounting. In other words, it ran its own affairs. This was around about the time of the height of the Battle of Britain. By this time, anti-aircraft cooperation was still very much to the fore, and you'd squadrons such as number 587 Squadron, which was a very familiar face around here for a number of years. However, during the conflict, Army cooperation came very much to the fore as well, and Weston Zoyland was an extremely important realistic training area for many RAF Army cooperation squadrons that passed through this area. This was an extremely important place. It was also a very versatile airfield as well, because say during 1944 there was RAF and American transport use here. For example, there was the 442nd Troop Carrier Group of the United States Air Force that came to Weston Zoyland just before D-Day and stayed in this area until the following September. The runways notably were also built during 1943, which helped matters further, so they served just the grass run landing area as before. The airfield itself gradually built up with more and more hangarage. After the Americans left, the anti-aircraft cooperation squadrons, which had been temporarily relocated to Culm Head, south of Taunton, where incidentally we erected our last memorial only yesterday morning, they came back and then they mixed with RAF fighter squadrons, including some early jet fighter ones. And this carried on until eventually Weston Zoyland was originally closed by the RAF in June 1947, with the general rundown after World War II. However, when the 1950s started and the advent of the Korean War, and people may tend to forget, there were real worries at the time that World War III might start. It was that serious. A lot of airfields, including Weston Zoyland, were reopened, a lot of them especially for training. And in this case, there was a unit here called number 209 Advanced Flying School that was subsequently renamed twice, and they brought back Gloucester Meteor jet fighters to the airfield here, and they flew for a few more years. And as some of the older residents may remember, Weston Zoyland was also notably used by English Electric Canberra jet bomber squadrons, which especially had significant connections with atomic weapons trials in Australia. And this carried on until 1957, when the airfield ran down. Again, contrary to what has been suggested elsewhere, the airfield actually closed at the end of 1957, but it was held on reserve by the authorities for many years afterwards, and the land was not actually finally sold until the end of the 1960s. Now, of course, there are still flying here today on this small enclave of land on the northwest side of the airfield, but Weston Zoyland is not fully active as an airfield, so that's why we acknowledge this with the dates. It would be best described today as a more minor come unlicensed airfield, but the airfield is still hugely relevant today in so many aspects, as you all know: the industrial estate, the car boot sales, and so on, and not least the public roadway that follows along the main runway, and not forgetting the village hall. But just on a final note, following on from that, just please do always remember Britain's airfields as a whole, because they've done so much and are doing so much for this country, not just militarily but also socially. They have performed absolute miracles in helping winning wars, saving lives, helping people, revolutionising everyday society for the betterment of all of us. We simply cannot afford to lose these places, even if, as in the case of Weston Zoyland, they are at least officially disused in a flying sense. You just need to see all around this too. It might not be immediately obvious, but there's an airfield link in so many ways in our everyday lives, and our lives would definitely be immeasurably poorer if our airfields theoretically never even existed. So therefore, not only just please just spare a thought for them, but within reason, just do all you humanly can to just try and help them, and not forgetting all the personnel, past and present, who have served at them, because they simply deserve so much better than they perhaps were treated in until just fairly recently, because they are fantastic assets to all of us, although they might not maybe immediately realised or even indeed appreciated. Therefore, again, thank you all very much for coming, and it's with very great pleasure that we're now able to unveil what is now our 51st memorial. We've got hundreds more planned to come over the years and decades to come. We're moving as fast as we can with this, and therefore we're extremely pleased to be unveiling this memorial to yet another of Britain's truly priceless assets, in this case the one and only Weston Zoyland Airfield. Thank you all very much.